Should be like your
Probably.
He just said get jiggy with it. There's a new guy.
I'm sure that one is guessing.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, as time reaches infinity, all domain names have been purchased.
Yeah. All fun domain names are slowly eaten up.
We got underscores, we got dashes.
That's kind of just like how the universe in general works.
Oh.
As time marches on, the universe gets consumed until.
It's called the acidification.
Well, I was
We're
going
on
with-
it.
I was going with
Sorry.
Yeah.
I
we got
throw a
it.
buzzword out.
I was going with the heat death idea.
Yeah.
The idea that as time goes on, all the dust and stuff to make stars gets consumed.
Yeah.
And then
spreads out.
And then spreads out, and then you can't make stars. And
Right,
then
it's because you've built a Dyson sphere to get enough energy. To
No.
Kubernetes.
I'm ending Dyson sphere talk.
No Dyson
Banned.
Can we talk about Dyson swarms?
Can we talk about heat death?
Class 2 civilization, please.
When the heat death of the universe begins, which I guess technically it already has.
It began with the Big Bang.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
Just when the universe becomes demented.
Oh yeah.
That's the other domain. I own 5e5e5e.com, which is a grade I prefer. Yeah, it's a gray. I don't know. It's a good gray. I don't know.
All right.
One day I was like, I like this
We got the
gray.
audio, we're good?
Let's see
We're
this
good.
domain name
It's
is
just a little bit later than 5 swarms.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
All right. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Y'all ready for this?
Okay. Cool. All right. Welcome everyone to Ben DevOps. Cool. Everybody having a good night tonight? Yeah. How's the refreshment? Did we do okay? Yeah. Cool. Well, if you like your refreshments, you get to thank Sneak. Sneak is our now permanent sponsor for DevOps. So everybody give Randall a big hand and thank you so much for stepping up and helping take care of us. Because if it wasn't for you, then I'd still be begging for scraps from whoever could hand out. Cool. Awesome. So that means now, from now on, we get to not only plug Sneak, which helps keep your code and your projects more secure, which they have a free tier. So if you got a personal project like I do, you can help make sure that you're not unleashing horrible security flaws out into the world. How cool is that? But that means you can also keep coming back here and enjoying pizza and beer and sodas and whatever other goodies that your idiot organizer decides to pick up for you. So, all right, given that, also, let's thank BenTech for our lovely space that we get to use here. I'll call Jason out, but he is not here, so, we'll just talk smack about him behind his back. So, that Jason, man, he is something else. But yeah, come check out the lobby pass for $100. That gets you in for, I forget if it's a day or a month, but it's right here. You get to use this space. You get to use our Wi-Fi. You get to drink that thump coffee that we brew here every day. And you get to come and hang out with folks like me who are just trying to get by and enjoy a little social interaction while we could try and get some work done. All right, cool. All right, next up, the usual networking session. All right, so whose company is currently hiring? Raise your hand, keep it high. Awesome, just one. Okay, cool. Next, who is hiring for junior positions? Yeah.
Not my department, sorry.
Not your department. Okay, cool. And who's looking for work? Woo. All right, cool. Hopefully we can try and invert that balance a little bit more and have some more people come out here to try and understand what awesome talent we have here in Bend, because we've got some awesome talent. Yes?
Can I try just a little riff on this? So, started a nonprofit.
Why don't you get up here and talk to the camera, because we're streaming live, baby! Let YouTube know what you got. Come up here. Up here, on camera. There you go.
Perfect.
Everybody,
All right.
not small.
Thank you. Just real quick announcement. I don't have paid positions or anything, but can certainly offer some great volunteering hours. We've started a nonprofit called Kwaai, K-W-A-A-I. It's an AI research lab building an open source personal AI assistant. This is a great opportunity if you just need some time and training and opportunity to get close to some really, really smart people doing some really cool things. So great opportunity if you're looking for work. There are people in that network doing things. And I just, please come join, volunteer, whatever you can, come observe, look at and hang out. Fridays at 10 a.m. is our weekly public call. It's on Google Meet. You join, drop in if you want. Please take a look. Thank you.
Awesome. And so that we all have that Google link, would you be able to put that link in our Discord? Which,
Yes.
by the way, who here is not currently in our Discord? All right, you should fix that. Go to our Meetup page, meetup.com/BenDevOps. In that page is our Discord link. Come join our Discord. We're a fun party. We like to have a load of fun. We like to blast people with our bots. No,
Hey,
fun bots.
we turned off those notifications in that channel. Okay?
Good job. Thank you. 10 points for Gryffindor. All right, cool. All right, so our first talk of the evening. He's spoken here before. In fact, he was our first speaker ever at this conference. And Craig is a very talented engineer, and he, up until very recently, had been doing IT for Nosler, and now he's free to do other things, which means he gets to come talk to us about some of the cool things that he has been doing. So I'm going to run slides for you. It'll take me 2 seconds to switch over, but I'm going to hand off to you, Craig.
All right.
All right.
Well, good evening, everyone. While we wait for Brian to load up the slides, just wanted to say good evening, first of all. My presentation is going to be about computer viruses, the misadventure I got into them with one recently, and how speed is not everything. How speeding through tasks can be devastating to your business. I did transitions, by the way, I'm sure a few times. So my background, up until very recently, I was an IT professional at Nosler Incorporated. Anyone here know who Nosler is, if I haven't told them already? Did anyone else get the memo?
Tell us.
Well, it was a gun and bullet manufacturer. I'll just get it right off the front. They made guns, bullets, and ammunition. And I worked in their IT department. My primary duties were level 1 help desk, so like someone would put in a ticket and be like, oh, the computer, it broke. How do I fix it? Not literally, but that's kind of what I did. I basically was like, oh, I can't access Google, how do I fix it? But there were other duties I had to do besides level 1, beyond the scope of level 1. One of those duties was the imaging and deployment of servers and computers, which that may be a level 1, but that also could be seen as a bit higher than level 1.
I would think so.
I have this really bad tendency, as you're probably noticing right now, to go fast and plow through tasks, and this unfortunately led me to a very devastating mistake. Oh, and I did some more background here, I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, my name is Craig Wessel.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, I know. Anyways, continuing. I have been fascinated with and interested in computers from a very young age. It all started when my dad kind of got me into them from at 3 years old or something, I don't remember. So it's kind of been such a thing since then. My spare time, I have many interests, including fishing, golf, driving, being with my friends, video gaming, and music, and cycling. That was the last one. Anyways, getting into the story. So, as you all know, if you have done a level 1 help desk job before, when a new hire joins the company, you usually have an imaging process to deploy a computer for them. So, new hire joins the company. Image the computer per our setup steps. Now, as I was telling some people, we did IT on a budget. So one of the things that was not good was per our setup steps, antivirus was installed after imaging the computer. Now, keep this in mind. The reason we installed antivirus after the image was deployed was because the way the image worked was it automatically ran through OOB, out of the box experience. It automatically ran through it and configured everything on its own. We didn't do any out of the box experience. I have to.
Okay.
So the reason, I was going to explain the reason why.
Sorry.
The reason the reason the antivirus is deployed afterwards is because when we run through the out of the box experience, it randomly generates a host name for us, right? And then we have to go in and join it to the domain and create the proper host name for it. We did not want to have licenses being taken up twice. Because if we had the antivirus pre-deployed, it would be taken up by the host name that was randomly generated, and then again by Nosler PC, blah, blah, blah. At least that's how it was set up. It was very convoluted. Again, we did IT on a budget, so.
Craig, can you move over a little?
Oh,
bit?
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the computer was deployed. And it was deployed and it worked perfectly fine. You can go next.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I deployed the computer, but guess what critical step I forgot? Does anyone want to take a guess at what critical step I forgot? Anyone at all?
Antivirus.
Oh, come on. That was so obvious. Next one. Yeah, and I don't know how many of you hate WebRoot, so I apologize for this very bad image up here if you hate WebRoot. That's what we used. Hey, at least it's not McAfee, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes, I forgot the antivirus. Luckily, the computer ran normally and fine for quite a long time, but as these things do have consequences, eventually it showed itself. One day, I go to work and I get a ticket. The worker can't access any websites at all. What do you think the problem was?
Domain hijacking?
Close.
And a no attack.
Computer DNS was mysteriously set to the local IP of 127.0.0.1.
Womp womp.
So,
It's always DNS.
yeah.
Yeah. There's no way it was DNS.
Yeah, it was DNS. Anyways, so, sorry about all the
Oh, you're fine. No, you're good.
After about 1 hour of troubleshooting, because I also have a really bad problem to start at the top and work my way down, which is not a good thing. I will admit that, but yes, I start at the top and then to work my way backwards. I don't know why I do that, but I do. I look in the system tray because I'm thinking there's got to be something wrong here. There's no antivirus in the system tray. There are no WebRoot logo, so that means there's no antivirus. So to rectify this, I install the antivirus, find out that the computer is indeed infected. I don't remember the name of the virus though, I just remember it was infected. So it hits me like a truck. At this point, I learned something very, very, very valuable. Time management is important in the world of IT. At least, that's what I learned. Speed is not everything, and speed can have devastating impact on your business if you're not careful. IT is not like a busy day at McDonald's. Does anyone remember when they were a teenager and they flipped burgers for McDonald's? Did anyone do that besides me? Anyone?
Not at McDonald's, but at other places.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys probably know the stress of working there. Yeah, that's not IT most of the time. I discovered that IT is usually about accuracy. There is that point where you do need to plow through things, but usually they want accuracy. So I performed my corrective actions. Like I said, I installed WebRoot, quarantined the virus, got it off the system. Then I go back to my desk and I run a master scan from the WebRoot web console of all the computers in the network in the company. Find out that 3 other computers are infected, one of which, and I don't know why he didn't raise a finger about this earlier, was the chief financial officer.
Wow.
And I don't know how he didn't raise a finger earlier. So immediately I run to quarantine those and remove, and I literally ran to the chief financial officer to quarantine his. So what did I learn from all this? Probably wise to have an AV included with your image, and we needed to figure out a workaround for that. That is probably a good first step. But it also is probably wise to slow down and do things accurately when you're working on a very, come on,
Detail-oriented process.
Detail-oriented process, thank you. Computer viruses, can I swear? Computer viruses fucking suck. And there is also a time and a place to go fast, like I was saying. Sometimes there is that time where you have to go fast. And a time and a place to slow down and make sure things are done correctly and accurately. And then I left it open for questions. Anyone have any? I guess not.
Is there anything that the virus did besides change the DNS?
It looked like it was just the DNS, so I don't know how much of a virus it really was.
Oh, yeah, and it's just something malicious.
Yeah.
Did the chief financial officer actually use their computer?
You're only asking this because I was telling you about how cheap he is. Yes, he uses
He's
his
probably
computer.
met a CFO or two in his day.
Yeah. He did surprisingly use his computer, yes. But I don't know how he didn't come to us sooner and say, hey, I can't access the internet. Or that's probably what he would have said.
And was that the condition you ran into when you ran into his office there?
Yeah, he had the same impact.
How'd
His
that go?
DNS was set to 127.
So he hadn't been in QuickBooks Online for a while.
Yeah! I don't know what happened. How did that go? I ran in there and told him, I need to look at your computer right now. It's going to take me like 5 minutes. He looked at me like, okay. So I did my thing. He's like, what happened? I'm like, well, I was like, I mean, I hate to say this, but you got a virus. And it was stopping you from accessing the internet, basically. You know, I really didn't know what else to say. I was like, just like, that's all I could say.
No, that's
Like a good doctor.
Yeah. So I just made sure to perform the surgery on that computer really quickly and get it fixed and get
Yeah,
it.
what'd you have to do?
Had to quarantine the virus with WebRoot, and then I had to remove it from the system with WebRoot, and then I had to make sure that the DNS and the network adapter options was reset to the proper DNS of our domain controller, and the fallback of 1.1.1.1.1. Cloudflare.
oh, Cloudflare.
Yeah, because we had a fallback to Cloudflare in case, because we were on-prem,
Right.
so we had a fallback to Cloudflare in case on-prem died.
Well, you were running a Windows shop, if I recall correct, right?
Yes, it was all a Windows shop. There was
And-
barely any Linux or Mac.
So so your AD controller then was really what was like central for running DNS locally. then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly. We had the AD controller and it had the DNS on it, and that was the primary DNS server was the AD controller, and then our fallback was Cloudflare in case the DNS controller
Yeah.
died.
Or if you're taking your laptop off.
Or that, yeah. Any other questions? Anyone?
What would you do differently?
Yeah, I was just getting basically the same question. So what changes in your workflow have you implemented for yourself as a result of that?
Unfortunately, the antivirus being included in the image was never implemented. As far as I'm aware, my poor boss is still struggling to figure that out now. Without me. The biggest change I would implement in my workflow is what I said earlier. If it's not time and critical, slow down and do it right. That's all I can say. That's the biggest one I can think of anyways.
Do you feel like there were systemic pressures that made you feel like you needed to speed up and go faster?
Not necessarily systemic, but I mean, I am autistic, so that might be part of it. I don't know. Maybe it just comes from the background I had where I worked a lot of retail jobs before I got this job. That might be part of it. I really don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes we just get in too much of a flow and develop some habits of rushing.
Yeah, exactly.
I have been guilty of that myself more than once.
Well, it's the important thing that my boss told me is that I am very good about when I make a mistake, I own up to the mistake, I take my beating, and I go on my way.
There you go.
Any other questions from anyone?
No.
Do we get any chat from the folks online?
Just Tyler saying that it's a good live stream. That's it.
Awesome,
So we're
awesome.
good.
All right, cool.
All right.
All right,
Great job.
Thank you, Ray. Good stuff. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, let's take a quick 10 before we get to our second talk. Go refill our drinks and our plates and all that, and we'll see you. Let's see, it's 6:52, so I'll see you at 7:02.
Oh, hey, Brian, does anyone know that clock back there has been broken for about a month?
That clock has been broken for about a month. Everybody knows it. Nobody's doing anything about it. I don't care. Yeah, it's right twice a day.
Oh yeah, that's right, a broken clock is right twice a day.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's struck that
Unless the clock is on a
See how this works.
All right, so you're.
What is a day? Yeah. Well, because today is today.
Yeah, right.
Australia.
Maybe move over just a little bit so people can see the slides.
What is it?
Whatever, like this way maybe?
One way or the other. I think to the right might be better because you're not obstructing the
I
camera.
feel like I've been here quarterly. It's kind of a weird. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
All right.
It's all right. Cool. I got.
How is that on camera? That's perfect.
It's good. I have.
Yeah, if you're behind your pseudo podium, you are not blocking the camera at all.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's
slightly.
like a roller coaster.
You just lean a little bit more to your
We
right.
can-
than the other.
I mean,
If we can nudge the whole thing to the left a little bit, it'll give.
Yeah.
It's,
Do that. There we go. Perfect.
Let's see. Solving problems.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so
Hey, Whit, can you stand at that?
Man who needs no introduction because I know jack shit about it. There, how's that?
Hey, what?
Just say, I mean, I can introduce, yeah, you can just say, I don't know really what to say. A man of leisure, yeah.
Oh, man of leisure. Freedom.
Yeah, man of leisure.
Fun employment.
Fun employed.
I did see you raise your hand.
Yeah, well, that's sort of, I can guess I yeah. It also is good for the mental health to work.
I just lost my consulting client that I had, which uses that stream. But I've been
Are you
without that
consulting for
time.
CoreLogic too? Or
No,
you're like
full time.
Yeah. So like,
So you make most of,
yeah. Maybe they'll try to like.
Yeah. I have a buddy who's like, he's working for Lambda Labs, and he's also hypothetically working full time as an engineering manager at Zynga. He's like, I work 5 hours a week.
But there's like a really
Oh god. He's like, I show up to meetings, I'm like, what does the team want? What does the team think about this? Let's do the team list.
for resumes, but you don't.
I've known
All on our website is
That's what I think I went down on.
coaching all the
But it's worth checking out, because if you're interested.
Right, because it's toxic, right?
much better.
And what's the hiring process?
I don't know anything about that, just except for use Python and show up to events and stuff.
Well, like their web layer is Python, but all the smarts are
So they were that way.
big.
What am I?
That was, Elixir was really big in Nashville, because Nashville, like,
And
functional
the like
group
kind
is
of
all over that.
here's a leak code kind of deal.
And somehow I like a kind of a
Yeah. It's
total there.
so much. I know
I don't know. I did a little bit of Erlang. It was kind of fun, and then I couldn't really, it didn't make my head.
I know, FP is weird until you get it. And then all of a sudden, it's like, it's one of those things where if you can do that mental shift and chunk into how an FP language is supposed to operate.
Yeah, it's really fun.
And the way that I think about it, it's like every function statement is over one. That's like the best analogy that I can think of.
And sometimes they recurse.
Oh, Perl recurses.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's functional programming. It's kind of like writing a whole lot of Perl one-liners. So, like, Perl one-liners. Yeah, Perl is notorious for one-liner.
They're trying, I think they really
You write Perl dashy open quote and put in string of random characters and stuff happens.
Okay, how are you?
The less random, the more precise. One of the coolest things that I had
To
seen
make sure you're not.
was a prime number generator that was just like a dozen characters in a register. And none of the characters were numbers, they were all like heights and slashes. It was the weirdest thing that I'd ever seen, but it worked. It made random numbers.
Prime numbers?
No, I'm sorry, ordered prime numbers. Random's wrong. Yeah, so it just goes like 2, 3, 5. 5, 7, 11, it worked. It was so high. I don't get it, but it worked. I'm kind of smart with regular expressions. I'm not dumber as I got away from it. Perl encourages you to do some horrible things.
Yes, yes it does. Yeah. I was tempted to talk about Perl in this just because it talks about the virtues of programming, impatience, laziness, and pride. And then it talks about the false virtues. Which,
some of the proudest programmers I've ever met, or some of the most prideful programmers I've ever met were Perl programmers. So that makes a lot of sense.
So why do you think that is?
It's like, well, why don't you know? When they're really just covering up the fact that they don't.
Oh God. That's not the bad. I always thought.
That and also Matt Trout. If you've ever met Matt Trout,
Do they have,
yeah, I know you gotta be careful.
I can't do it. I can't figure out.
Yeah, just like I have a buddy that.
What's that?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to project this.
Are you in Chrome? Well, stop doing your presenter. Stop presenting.
Move there, like to go visit.
And then open up your slide deck.
Yeah.
Open slideshow and present on another screen.
There you go.
Yeah.
How do I get my presenters?
Try it like that.
You gotta try it. You gotta go, and I've tried it.
So slideshow.
It was weird.
Present on another screen.
Well, hit presenter view
But it
again.
was just like when it runs.
Now,
There's this
from
place
here,
there. Everyone already knows that likes. It's like a cheat.
well, no, if you leave that, it closes that out.
Which means like, it makes you think, is it illegal?
Are you trying to cover something up?
But it's
Well,
like,
let's see if maybe you woke up.
I brought my wife to
No, that's not what I was gonna say. Hit the cheeseburger again to the right there, and let's just see the cast of characters.
And I'm like, I said, I'm not a seafood guy. Like, it's weird. It's not gonna go for fish.
I wonder if there's like some setting that I have to
It's like one of those things.
start a
Google Slides, Chromecast with presenter view.
It's like there's a
state pay for all right?
there's something about it.
Too, they're paying taxes, it's only like
We had it actually working before.
Yeah. View presentation.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really, really good. But there is nothing
Cool.
other than books
So,
right now.
Have you been in bed forever?
No, we just moved here last year.
We have an opportunity to reinvigorate.
No, we love the Bay Area.
Oh,
And I'm
nice.
fairly
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Too.
Nice.
But
People
we had
come
some
together,
together
there's some
up
sharing
here like 10 years ago.
for each other.
Yeah.
Ah!
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
Since they're about to start.
Alright, we're doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's you're just going through my desktops there.
Dude, your form sucks, seriously.
No, my daughter made that in Gemini. Yeah, that's her barbarian fancy.
Organizing along kind of
So that is Google Chrome.
We're building
I can't find.
AI OS, which is.
Alright, wait a minute.
We're kind of like Linux.
To show your speaker notes, tap the speaker notes.
The principle of self-sovereign data, self-sovereign identity. Keep your
Oh,
data to
what?
yourself.
Oops.
Put your personal
like
data
chugging
together,
coffee all day, too, so
and then
I
have
do
your
some sort of water to like not be all dry and gross.
able to then interact
And then you're just
on
like-
your behalf.
Yeah.
You get that, like,
Ideally,
chap.
instead of them
Get just
running
wow.
around
Windows.
Here, you know the elevation.
It's the dry, yeah.
Or instead, you're
Well,
sort
you
of
guys were in LA
personalizing
for a
those
little bit, you know,
services
it's
to
kinda
just
dry.
get what you
Well,
want.
wait. I think I can.
I actually just bought a place in July, and so it's been a whole deal.
What part of the city did you
Do you know where?
Okay, so if I do this, I put it over here.
It's closed right now.
Research
That's
around
why
sort of
I'm
core
saying.
neural
You know
network.
what
Okay,
Pioneer
so
It's on.
I mean, I could just do it like.
There's the condos right on.
Actually, I'm up there. That's great. Well, let's do
Yeah.
a presenter
Yeah,
interview.
it's been great.
Yeah,
It's
but
been
then-
Hey!
Testament, and then-
Hey!
Whatever you did worked.
Don't.
It's like survival for them right now, so. It's been okay. I was really fortunate.
Yeah, let's see what happens if I.
When I lived down in the.
And then, third.
I mean, if I can also, I might be able to move this
And
to.
so, when I got
To
in,
advocate for the use of AI by individuals in
yeah,
the workplace.
so it's like, I might as well
Hmm.
enjoy a season of skiing.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
We can make that.
Here, there. What about now?
Still hasn't fully.
Check out them apples.
Can you still see your notes?
Yeah, I can still see my notes.
Hey, perfect. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, and they can read it.
That's good. Here's what we know, don't know. Is this
Yeah,
have a script.
It was, I think it was.
Why are you reading
first
when I
again,
can just
like,
read it over?
when I first.
Alright.
Have a
We talked
framework
over there for.
and then get good at being a little bit off the cuff.
And then,
Seal of approval on it. So we'll
really
see.
what I was.
Which takes a little bit of practice.
That's kind of what we're organizing.
But,
Like,
you know, some people are also a little bit better at it out of the gate than others.
Yeah.
Some people
I
are
brought a
not.
guy who works at Nosler,
And as you
putting it together, that was right
develop that
after
ability,
our
then you
first
can
summit.
be able to talk
Very
shit
natural.
to anybody.
Summit in October down at community college.
just cool guys.
And we're
Don't
doing
get
it
too worried.
in March.
Oh,
That's
I think you guys are
really
rivalry.
We got co-located.
Friendly rivalry?
Very congenial.
Oh,
Well,
you're-
yeah,
you're-
there you go.
Yeah, we got some really
We're all
awesome
listening.
headliners coming in. to talk about
Nobody gets this far in their career without being.
self-sovereign identity.
As I'm sure your talk will reveal.
Just a lot of philosophical topics.
Hopefully there's.
Showing our first concept demo of our.
Oh,
I used to work on your started.
Yeah,
Okay.
we talked about.
okay, if you're not in the room, raise your hand.
I'm not in the room.
Okay, cool. Great. You all get an A for attendance. Great. Cool. All right, so did everybody get a fresh beverage? There's still more in there. I got way too much food for how many people showed up. So thank you for showing up and helping eat and drink and be merry. Speaking of eating and drinking and being merry, so Whit here showed up here on my doorstep because we have a mutual friend both from prior work, and I'm slightly better for having known him. And now I'm looking forward to getting to know what kind of stuff he's got to tell us.
It's just the slightest.
Yeah. So
After this, it may decrease.
yeah.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
So everybody, Whit Morriss.
I'm glad to be able to fill this time. Thank you for being here to listen. In this talk, I have fairly modest goals in the sense of, like, I just want to sort of introduce the basic ideas of reliability engineering and how they relate to DevOps. The words, may the words be good. I think that there are a lot of problems with words in the world of operations and DevOps, platform engineering, infrastructure, and SRE, as well as acronyms. So, and then some thoughts on how to utilize some of the concepts around reliability engineering, SRE, in your own work, and maybe how to implement them. More mental frameworks than technical pieces, but you know, we can talk more about that. So, I've worked at some places. Some are incredibly weird. Some are pretty damn normal. I've worked at kind of from front end to back end, web designer, sysadmin, operator, technical, you know, tech ops to DevOps to done a little bit of everything, including management, and worked on some open source projects as well. So, and I think it's important that DevOps is about empathy, and the reason that we have empathy is because people have failure and pain, often us. And I want to start with a story just to prove that I also fail. And this is kind of like, this is not the most painful operational story I have, but it is maybe the most notable. A Sunday afternoon in San Jose in 2004, while racking a server in AboveNet, which I think is now part of the sixth circle of hell, aka US West 1, I unplugged His Holiness's server, taking down the entire web presence for the exiled government of Tibet for a brief period. To this day, I don't think Dalai Lama knew that I did that, hopefully. Karma. The remediation was easy. We plugged it back in, waited for Linux to boot, checked the URL, and never mentioned it again. For those of you who have ever studied Buddhism, one of the great teachings is pain is inevitable, but suffering may be optional or at least transient. And jumping ahead to 2010. I was in a very painful situation at a company that you may have heard of that involved monkeys and forms. And things were, and I found this book, and it has similar phrasing that said, if it hurts, do it more frequently and bring the pain forward. This is Jez Humboldt. And the book was Continuous Delivery, which is kind of one of the two seminal books that was brought DevOps kind of into being. It wasn't as simple as plugging back in the server. I was dealing with some Class A Silicon Valley growing pains, and this book was kind of under my pillow during that time. And we had grown from 2 services in 2 languages to 30 services in 4 languages. I had been a programmer, but now I was spending more of my time building and fixing release tooling. So I moved this other book under my pillow, and I started learning. This is kind of how I came into awareness of DevOps, which would then lead me into awareness of a lot of other things, including SRE, which we will talk more about in a second. And I think it's important to kind of lay this foundation, because I think that the people like John Alspaugh and John Willits were sort of pulling these learnings from outside of the software bubble, from places like the airline industry with Sidney Dekker and the works of W. Edwards Deming, and sort of applying them, and it's sort of the at that time the seminal study of cognitive engineering, and pulling them in to sort of say, hey, we can't just have you build stuff and operate stuff and think that that's not related. And then have somebody else who's coming up with a product, and this is our business, and none of these people are actually talking and working together. So, you know, it's just, anyway, that was, I already read all the things on that slide, so we'll move ahead. So every job I've had is a new opportunity to be reminded, regardless of scale, profit, or technical know-how, the biggest problems in computing are people trying to work with each other. When George Bernard Shaw said the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion has taken place, he wasn't talking about misconfigured security group rules and slow batch jobs. Reliability inevitably comes down to humans communicating effectively about the state of what is, the state of what needs to be, and what is valuable. Technical knowledge is an implementation detail that is surprisingly easy to fill in once you can accurately answer the questions above. So this talk is about, above all, words, and unfortunately, acronyms. Much of this will sound like fact. Some of it is obviously opinion. Much of that opinion will stem from my views on how to use the English language to better accomplish the empathy, compassion, and ultimately the delivery of the value that DevOps promises. Within the structure of this entity we call SRE. So some words are more important than others. I still haven't been able to find anybody that can tell me why site is part of SRE. You might know the answer to this. You have some ideas. We can talk about it later.
Come on.
Huh?
Gotta keep the website up, come on.
Yeah, exactly. It comes from the era of the webmaster, right?
It's not about building reliability.
Right, right. The webmaster who controls the common gateway interfaces must keep the site up. Google claims to have created SRE in 2003 and invented site reliability engineering. If you believe the 2016 O'Reilly bestseller, Site Reliability Engineering, the book, there's links in the show notes. And the brag seemed to be that Google had reinvented technical operations by approaching the problem of running software with software engineering principles, which is something that people who've worked in operations for years had already been doing. And they built lots of software. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, though. It just means that when they started marketing it, there were certain people who looked kind of sideways at it and were like, I want to kill that. Go ops. I worked with some of these people. This book is, as you expect, Google-centric, but it has good stuff in it, and it began to expose a structure to many folks that they could use to kind of implement their DevOps dreams. DevOps, as we know, people would kind of go into a business and say, this is DevOps, we're going to be empathetic, we're going to use tools, we're going to help people, and they'd be great, let's have a DevOps team. And they'd be like, oh. So this actually started to give a way that you could have some structure, the SRE team, that was at a place that seemed to be successful, Google, and you could do DevOps. They pulled in a lot of those ideas that we were talking about earlier. So the second book, the later book, the SRE workbook, I feel like does a lot better exegesis of kind of explaining and like giving case studies of how all these things work, and I highly recommend it. And they give a good shout out in the beginning to my buddy Jess Humble and his comms culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing framework, which some of you all may have encountered in your DevOps journeys. So it also gave us a lot of words. SLO, SLI, error budget, toil, blameless postmortem, incident response, production readiness review. And these words have meanings, but if you say them to random people at your business, they may have different ideas about what that means. And if you start trying to explain to a product manager why they need an SLO, they'll glaze over. And that conversation is pretty much ended. So part of what I'm going to try to do in this talk is give you all maybe a little bit of a framework that's a little bit more friendly to approaching these things. So we'll attack some of the larger words first with some quick definitions. Toil. This is what the Gemini AI thinks toil means at Google. I'm pretty sure that is Kubernetes right there. But
No, it's Puppet.
it's Puppet.
There's more strings.
Thanks. Yeah.
It's Ansible.
It's Ansible. Oh, God, no. Salt stack. Anyway, toil is the target of automation or process improvement. Replace that which steals your joy and time with a tiny little bash script. So, incidents. An incident, well, incidents are unscheduled work of varying criticality. I think that we have all worked in high reactivity environments where, much like your story, where things happen and then we try to fix them. And we tend to think that because these things happen and then we have to fix them, that makes them maybe more important than just doing our work. I think one of the important things about incidents and incident response, both from a DevOps lens and SRE lens, is this is all work. Now, due to the unscheduled nature of this work, it is wise to have a system that allows for the handling of said work smoothly as possible while capturing as much value from the work as possible. Because the problem with unscheduled work is you often don't know how to get the value out of it because you weren't planning to do it. So this is why it is important to have an incident management system. Reliability and unscheduled work and other supplies is closely related to the work of SREs. And SREs often play an important role in IMS, either as responders, incident commanders, or administrators of learning capture. Postmortem. I hate this term. This term is the worst. Postmortem is simply an agile retrospective of unscheduled work. At my last job, we tried to get rid of this because as Russia was invading the Ukraine, all of our Polish co-workers were very, very not okay. And so I think it's bad. It's also like nobody ever really dies in the data center unless something truly terrible happens. The learning retrospective is a key piece of information capture about threat and risk to value, as well as learning about emergent behavior inside and outside of the business. Running and reviewing these documents is a common part of the SRE's job in many places.
What would you call it instead?
I would just call it a learning retrospective, or retrospective, or incident retrospective.
That's a lot of syllables. Postmortem is 3.
Retro.
Retro.
And it is
Retro's
morbid.
too.
Retro's got style.
Retro.
Oh, yeah.
Retro.
You could do like a 50s theme. Like,
Yeah. You could call
Retro,
it,
you're retro.
Yeah. Red booths, long cars.
blameless. And the only note I put down here was Field Guide to Human Error by Sidney Decker. And Sidney Decker's done a lot of great writing on how human systems fail miserably when they were working great the day before, and how we can actually go about learning from that without shaming, blaming, and creating more fragile systems from updating that. So this usually mainly means, I mean, the individuals are obviously part of the system, but it's really at looking at the system, because most of the time when an individual is involved in the root cause of an incident, they are doing something that the day before they were doing to succeed at their job. And the way the system is set up, for one reason or another, they have crossed an unsafe line that was not apparent to them, and usually you have a set of cascading failures that happen after that. So anyway, Field Guide to Human Error, I highly recommend for anyone who's interested in failure and getting better at it. So I just addressed toil and incident management and sort of, somewhat of promoting a culture of learning and doing it in a way that is sort of safe and just for the people involved in it. The third element, which you will see in a lot of SRE's jobs, usually you could, if you want to just go down the implementation path, you could be like, these are our monitoring engineers. But that would be cutting it short shrift for what they're actually trying to do. And monitoring is the tool that is used, but really what it is about having a knowing of the system so we can make decisions about the system based on the value we want to get out of it. So all those SLO, SLI, SLA I didn't put up there because that's usually something that's a little bit outside of the SRE scope, but related to it. And I said cost center of excellence, because I think that you frequently hear people talk about center of excellence for operations. And that's a true thing, and an SRE team is kind of doing that. They're trying to make sure that everything is working out in the way that it should, and we'll talk a little bit more about how they do that. But they also are not actually building anything to make the business go forward. And the word service gets used a lot, which, I don't know, what would people say service is?
Something you provide to others. Maybe a platform that you're doing this particular thing.
God damn it, you had to answer correctly. You're supposed to give me the wrong answer.
Sorry.
You're supposed to be like, it's a thing in Kubernetes.
It's when the waiter comes and smiles at you and asks you what you want, makes you feel good for showing up.
Something requested, something delivered.
Yeah, this is all very good. Y'all are giving good answers. I wanted bad answers, but thank you. Thank you for your good answers. The rest of this is going to be very boring for you. Okay, so first of all, I think we kind of have to step back. So what SREs do really is about
Stretching the pyramid.
stretching the pyramid. And in fact, actually, it's all about triangles. We'll get to that some more later, but it's all about triangles. This is a foundation. So customers communication to businesses. Customers communicate value to businesses by giving them money. Developers communicate value to open source projects by giving them attention. Content creators feed their egos upon subscribes and likes and so on. Even a pyramid scheme has, for a while, value, though your mileage may vary. Ultimately, value is the reason a business exists and hires you to be an engineer. If it ceases to create enough value for their customers to get enough money to pay you often enough, likely they cease to employ you. Value is the answer to why we business or why we run this pile of spaghetti. So, if we have that, our foundation is value. What we care about at SRE is enough. Enough means your business succeeds. Good is an event generating value and often is the periodicity of doing good. If a system needs to do better, more good more often, it needs an improvement in reliability. In the engine room, we might think of it as scaling up. On the deck, it looks like more customers wanting more good. For SRE, reliability is the focus. Ken does beach, SRE does reliability. Most people don't know they need beach until they have beach problems, but beach has been there all along. Like beach, reliability is ubiquitous. It may be done by a team, by an org, or by a person, or by a figment of your imagination.
Beautiful.
So, that brings us to the word service, which you all so lovelily defined.
I was going to say system E.
But what must be good enough? Reliability must also be dependent on the context of the business and what it is providing to generate value. The provision is always some combination of people, process, and technology, and their interactions. I call this a service. So it's much like what you said. It's something required, something delivered. It's the waiter giving you what you need. It is an item that has been put together, a complex system that is delivering someone value. And it's usually a two-sided thing. It has to create value in the world so it can bring value back to keep sustaining itself. it strongly suggests that, yeah, so I use this definition because I think one of the problems you run into a lot in trying to implement SRE in an org, we would come and talk to people and they would be like, great, our service, it runs in Kubernetes. And we're like, okay, but like, what does it do? And they're like, well, it's the whole business. And I was like, well, that's going to be a little hard to figure out which parts are working and which parts aren't. And they're like, well, we don't have a service. We have a batch job. And it's kind of like, eh. And they're like, well, we have a service, but it's just a couple endpoints on this large Ruby app. And all of those things can be a service if you define it from the value perspective. Once you start getting an implementation, you lose the connection of the people and how they develop and how they can evolve the service, how they operate the service. And operations is where we actually make the money, which is where the value happens. So I recommend this this is one of my recommendations, is that if you define a service, define your service broadly and define it by the value it provides. So I have a bunch of notes here, but I'm gonna, whatever. I mean, basically, once you start doing this, once you start breaking down your business into like, okay, here's our big value statement. Here are the small things that like go into this. Then you start having an interface to actually reason about what is happening. And you could say, well, you know, we're having a lot of problems over here, but that's not actually making any money. So fine, we're learning stuff. Or we're having a lot of problems over here, and that's threatening the business. So let's invest more in that. Which we can kind of get into, which is part of what we get into with SLOs, which we'll talk about in a second. But for a service to truly be defined, you have to have someone who owns this business capability. You have to have stakeholders in it, like people who care about it. And you have to know what the dependencies are on it, what dependencies it has on other things. So a service may be a stakeholder in another service. And once you have these, you can actually start talking about service level objectives, and service level indicators, which is what those are made out of. This is a little tricky. Like I kind of mentioned before, if you walk into a dev team and you're like, you need SLOs, they'll be like, go f yourself. And I think also if you talk to product people who are actually usually the people who know what the value is of what you're doing, they may also be like, I don't know what that is. So
does the business team ever come to you with an ask for SLOs?
Actually, the business team will get there.
Okay. I
mean, yeah, but the business team is also, so business operations is often your best friend as an SRE, because or customer operations, because they are the people who are seeing the carnage, or they are the people who are seeing how things are moving in ways that are healthy or unhealthy. And they usually have numbers, and they would love to have those numbers put into a framework that they could then use to make arguments about what gets done and how things work, which is exactly what you can do with an SLO. The problem with this is like a service level objective is a bit esoteric from the start. It's basically saying, what we really want to do is back up and say, how are you doing? You provide this value, how are you doing? How do you do that? Like, how do you actually provide this value? And sometimes you find out people are like, I don't actually know where the value happens. I don't know where this gets converted into AUM. I don't know. It's just the jobs happen and then we have money. This is a true story. This is a true story. But basically, so you need to know. One of the things SREs can do is basically come in and say, how do you know what's happening, where the value happens, and how do you know how you're doing? Like, how do you know how healthy you are? Like, what is the causal chain that keeps or puts gold in our pocket? How do you know this is working? What happens when the chain breaks? Who gets hurt? So this basically means an SLO is a measure of health. And so we're basically saying, and you can think of it, it's a measure of health over a period of time. So a service level objective is sort of saying, how well are we doing well enough to be healthy enough of the time to be successful? So we talk about uptime and nines and stuff like that, and I think there's kind of this thing where it's like, if you have 4 nines over a year, Johnny would still drown if if you were trying to keep the water below his nose, because he'd be under for 10 minutes at max. But if you make it 4 nines, if you make it 5 nines, then you're down to like under a minute. The time period matters, right? Often when things happen matter. Like, if you are running the servers for the streaming servers on Super Bowl Sunday and you have an issue, those servers may be running great on the Monday afterwards. It doesn't matter for you. But the most important thing for measuring health over time is knowing what the value is, and then actually having actions connected to do something about it, whether it's reviewing the information and having some learning process around that, or actually having something that changes the way your organization is operating around this. This is a good quote that is not very good right here in my talk. I'm going to bump forward. I had one on error budgets, but I think I erased my slide. So anyway, a great example of, actually it is this. I'm just getting confused. So you have an SLO, you measure how well you're doing over time, and then suddenly you're like, hey, my measure of health says I am unhealthy. So what do? So they don't have an actual acronym for that. There's no SOOR, SOOR. But I like to call this operational response. And an operational response may affect a number of things. So the special case example that is very popular is the error budget. So if you have a service, and this may change through the life cycle of a service. In the beginning, it may spew lots of errors, and that may be okay. And so SRE says, hey, we both agree this is okay, the stakeholders say that's okay, the owner says that okay. And then as we move more towards say, higher scale or production, or need more clarity and less noise, we may turn that down. Usually, I think, from people I've talked to who have used this, turn it down to 0, because any uncaught exception is effectively an incident. It should be very, very rare. It should be exceptional. So this is kind of a special case. And then if you do below this budget, say you are working at a very high level and you have your one exception, then you will invest a certain amount of time to make sure that does not happen again. So sometimes there may be types of SLOs where you demonstrate you're so far out of reliability that you may need to say, okay, we're no longer going to work on product features, we're going to move over and work on accuracy and operational either operational infrastructure or operational architecture, or just fixing the damn bugs, whatever it may be. But this is a good thing, because if you have this agreement made ahead of time, the development team is fine with it, because they're like, hey, we told you we were going to do this. They say we have to. And most people, like, it makes it easier to actually kind of get that quality in. Whereas a lot of times when you're kind of dealing with a reactive situation, people are like, we dealt with the incident, we had the post-mortem, and like, I don't know, hope it doesn't happen again. and they're pushed. They're pushed in that way. It's that kind of thing I was talking about with the thing that we do today that's successful. When things change and we do that thing tomorrow, it won't be. If we build in the ability to change how we're doing, and we have plans to do that, we are much more able to adapt to these situations. So, SRE, how can we? I ripped the title from Stephen Colbert's book. So triangles are how we're going to do this implementation. Not that one. So this is called Dickerson's pyramid. I have, like I said, these terms I'm not super psyched with. Root cause analysis. It's good to figure out your problems. It's not good to use fundamental attribution error to label singular things inside larger complex systems. But in general, this is kind of how you would go about this. Start with monitoring. And the good thing about this is if you implement these and stop at any point, you'll be okay. And the thing is product encompasses all of this anyway. Because that's why your product, the thing that you're using to create value, is what you're doing it all for anyway. But you start with monitoring, and then work into incident response. And you kind of this is sort of, if you all know the OODA loop. Oh yes, the OODA loop. So observe, orient, decide, act. And so this is a good kind of, I think it was first developed by the United States Air Force as a way of dealing with situations, with incidents, dealing with things that happen unexpectedly. It also works really great as just a way of working through that pyramid to implement a reliability process, whether you're doing that on your own or you're doing that as part of a team. And so you kind of work from the bottom, you figure out what the value is, and then you monitor it, make sure you can measure it. Once you can measure it, you can start to have real learning in your incidents. Develop an incident management system so you're actually capturing that information. And then you can kind of work through your getting kind of more into your capital expenditure, DevX, platform engineering, and what a lot of people like to call DevOps type stuff. But kind of you're basically changing the way that you are creating, testing, and delivering your software to serve the value of your product. And yeah.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
On that last one, do you ever look at an organization and say, whoa, your levels are messed up? How do organizations get this wrong?
Get this wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's like cancer, but I think what happens a lot. So yeah, this is a good place. This is a good thing to talk about. I could probably do a whole nother talk on roadblocks to implementing SRE and other nice things that we aren't allowed to have. I think where organizations get this wrong is often, if you're going to take the SRE route, I mean, it's also the problem with DevOps. SRE, if you have a team, that team has to have essentially somebody who can empower it to either be the evangelist or to actually do the implementation to make these things happen. So a lot of times in very divided companies, a lot of people will be like, okay, you're the monitoring infrastructure people, so you build it all and you measure it all, which is a dead end because you won't get the value. And a lot of times in those organizations too, we ran into a lot of problems at my last job where we would talk to these devs and they wouldn't actually know what the value of what they were doing was. So they were not the right source of information, but they were the people that we were supposed to interact with. The problem is we also talked to the product managers and they also didn't know what the value was. So a lot of it was kind of going to try to find people who A, knew what was going on, and B, were willing to work with us. So I think there's some balkanization that can happen in large organizations. So it means that you have to bootstrap enough of a process to kind of get this working up the pyramid. We also, a good example from my last job too, like incident response, we had 7 different incident response systems. Like you should only have one incident response system for your entire company, or if your company is like well segmented in some way, because you essentially need to all be on the same page so you can have a very low cost of coordination. You need to be able to very quickly know who to call. That needs to be a fairly centralized system that actually works very well in a like centralized points of coordination that works very well in a decentralized fashion.
Sorry, can I ask a follow-up on that?
Sure.
Because you brought up incident response and P scale likely. How do you actually then implement that? What are some ways that you figured out how to bridge that communication gap to get everybody on that same sort of incident response scale?
I mean,
that the sales team is always going to think everything's a P0.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yes, and the sales team will also, because that's the only time they get responded to. And I think the other thing too is that part of it is you have to have, I mean, the way that I've seen it work really well was when I was working at Simple, and they had a very, it was awesome to be part of that system. But it started with a very strong personality that had a very concerted effort to basically build bastions throughout every organization inside Simple. And Simple was pretty open to it. They're also there's a saying like, you can see the light, but you don't move till you feel the heat. And they went through like a crisis where they basically, TNX Via was a transaction processor that they used. Google bought them, told them for months and months and months and months and months and months, years, that they were going to get rid of them, and then they finally got rid of them. They're like, oh, we got to move. And so that was this tremendous, like, painful moment that then cemented an amazing IMS process.
No pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
I think based on these questions, we should definitely have a talk. SRE bottom up.
Yeah.
At my previous job that I worked at, we had kind of that same problem. We had a monitoring group where we had monitoring in place. We had an incident response daily stand-up that we would go to if there was an incident that happened. We realized that daily was not great because incidents shouldn't happen daily. I think
many ways.
But it's like IM shouldn't happen as frequently as it was, but it was just kind of like, if you want to get something done, you throw an IM at it, and then somebody will like talk about it on the like group daily, which like whatever. But there was no evangelization of SRE. There was no.
You didn't have a sponsor with
no
lightning
sponsor,
bolts.
no lightning bolts. We talked about it like the whip was sitting on the counter right there, but nobody would pick the whip up and make people do stuff.
Yeah.
So we would get an IM that would open, and it's like, yeah, that's broken. We point to this team. This team would say, it's not us, it's that team. And that team would point, and it's like, no, it's this team. We try and get them in the same room. They're like, they don't want to do it.
I would love to do an incident management roundtable.
Can we please? Yes. Can we have
just incident management horror stories?
IMAA, like incident management.
Incident Commanders Anonymous.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But yeah,
this
like,
could be a good talk series.
Bottom up, like, how do we bring SRE? Because we didn't have any like people called SRE, but I always felt like I kind of got shoved into that little box of doing SRE things.
Yeah, I meant to put that in the talk, that like a lot of times what happens is like you have shadow SRE already there, which is like your staff engineers and your principal engineers and
DevOps people that are kind of like moved in.
and people who like to do all that stuff, but it's not really their job, and like
with access.
The ones with the
That's another
access.
thing.
the access is key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
Better is
So
better
can we?
it to where you can restrict access and then nobody has access.
That was
Turn
another
off
thing,
all the
too.
SSH. Yes.
Yeah.
Turn off all the servers.
Yeah. Just boop, done.
So secure.
Where's your incident?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would like to formally request a bottom-up SRE how-to.
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, I think, you know, I think part of what SRE, a lot of like, when you have businesses that grow, and like a lot of times people are like, SRE is great for microservices. And it's like, well, why did you have the microservices in the first place? Well, Johnny didn't want to work on Billy's code base, and Jill actually had to get work done, you know, and so you start to see this sort of cultural, and it happens not just in tech, but it happens also in like business units but they're all kind of like moving in separations, which is like my favorite model for a growing organization is to have vertically integrated teams that are led by usually a tech lead and a product manager, and they have all the things they need, and those people move in and out, and they determine the measures of health, they determine the value, the SLOs, and like those become kind of that API for people to, you know, interact with their team, and then, but everything that rises must converge. So SRE serves an important purpose, or classic ops used to do this as well. It's like the burrito that goes around all the other stuff and make sure that it gets to the place where it creates value safely, securely, reliably, all that.
Thank you.
We have a question from the comments of live stream. What's the incident management tool that you like the best? Please don't say PagerDuty. By Brad Bell.
The incident management system tool that I like the best is having a well-defined system in a place that everybody can get to.
You can use Jira if everybody knows how to use Jira.
That's right.
Don't use Jira. Don't do it.
No, we use Jira at Twitter.
No.
And it worked really, really well.
If you have Jira,
because we had a well-defined process around it.
Yeah,
Jira was
yeah.
a vehicle for a well-defined process.
and all this stuff, there's a ton of people out there selling tools.
Yeah, it's
We'll
not
talk
about
later.
the tool.
It's not about the tool, it's about, and the thing about incident management that's so great is that sometimes the tool will be down, so you still have to be able to do the process. So like,
The hard way.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And like that's why it's part of why we also spread the process between Jira and just having a big long Google Doc
Yeah.
for
Just
your write-up
stuff.
of just stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was templates for it. So if you weren't sure what the process is, the template told you.
Yeah, it's
You
there.
just forked the template and there was a button to do it. It was dead
The right
simple.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the goal was to use a hardened process. And if we built
Yeah.
something from the ground up, it would be all fucky.
Yeah.
But if we use off-the-shelf components, off-the-shelf Jira, off-the-shelf Google Docs,
Put it together.
put it together,
I have-
somebody else's problem to make sure they work, not our problem.
Famous last words.
It's like, yeah, if Google Docs is down, write it in Markdown in your terminal and then paste it out later.
Yeah.
I mean, so we had it in a repository in GitHub, and it was distributed all over because we would also put all of our incident reports in that repository, which meant that we were constantly writing in it and updating it and using it.
GitLab is an incredible example of a company that open sources like everything. Like you can go get their customer service, customer success runbooks. It's open sourced on a GitLab, and they like practice what they preach.
Oh my God, their documents on how to run an async workplace are.
Yeah, I've stolen them a lot. I mean, use them.
They're open source.
Been inspired by them.
Yeah.
I like the language. You promised me some choice words for platform engineering.
Platform engineering, I think, choice words for it. Yeah, sorry. I don't know if they're that choice. I mean, I would say that platform engineering.
What is that, first of all? In the words, platform engineering. The words. Sorry, I wasn't pointing at that. The words platform engineering, can you define that before you then?
Yeah. I mean, platform is a meaningless word, and engineering is something that people like to fancy up building things. Now, I think platform
Building
engineering.
Meaningless things?
What?
Building meaningless things?
I don't think it. No, I don't think that. I don't think that.
Those are choice words.
Those are choice words. That's the thing is like all these titles like platform engineering, SRE, infrastructure. It's basically like people are like, we need to do something different than them. What's a different name we can use? And then suddenly you have an SRE team that's like doing infrastructure, or you have a platform engineering team that's doing the same thing as their infra team is. Yeah, it's doing ops. Yeah, platform engineering. I guess it's emergent, and it's fairly new, and it feels like kind of the. And I like the idea of it because I think that basically everybody just wants Heroku, and platform engineering gives you that, maybe, if you're lucky.
I mean, the SREs don't want Heroku.
They want Spotify Backstage, I think.
That's right. What's your IDP?
Oh God, Backstage.
There you go. Backstage is only as good as the docs written in it.
Yeah. I mean, it does give you a schema, which that is a huge hurdle for a lot of people.
Marked down with extra steps. You can use Sphinx.
Yeah.
It's got better.
It's a lot of tooling. I mean,
That's what we put on it.
I mean, I joke about Heroku, but I think that for a short period of time, I sold the Juju deployment of Cloud Foundry for Canonical, which basically the sales pitch was like, hey, your ops people don't have to talk to your developers.
Yep.
This is the interface. You can just send tickets back and forth.
Juju Charms.
Oh, God.
Great name. Juju.
It was the. Anyway, that's another talk. I'm not going to go into it.
So are we
anyway.
officially in the Q&A portion now?
I think we've been in the Q&A portion for a while. All I have at the end was some links. Yeah, so here, there's SRE versus platform.
All
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you all.
The
for-
Google books for SRE and all their development books, have you guys read through any of those? Do you guys approve?
Did I put them on there?
They suck.
I think the original book is skippable.
yes.
The workbook, like I said, I wasn't making fun of it when I said that. I think it is very useful, and it has good sort of general pieces kind of into that, like how do you implement SRE from ground up. It is still kind of more bigger company-ish. But yeah, I think those books are good. The SLO book by Hildago is awesome.
Oh no, it's down.
Yeah, I closed it. So it's fine. I'll share the talk and put some more links in there. But the cool thing about the Google books is they are all online. So
Yeah, I ran across them a couple years back and I saved them, but I didn't know if they're really good or not. So that's why I asked.
I mean, the thing to remember is that reliability engineering is something that we all have to do if we care about doing our jobs well, or we just don't like being annoyed by things breaking. SRE is a particular shape that Google has kind of put out into the world, and it's evolving. And kind of like platform engineering, or some people's attempts to to implement DevOps as teams. Like some of these things work better than others. Take as Rick Rubin says, take what works for you and forget the rest. And he also says if you do exactly the opposite of this, it might be just as good.
You were asking about books also. In that same family, one that I like to plug that doesn't get a whole lot of traction is Production Ready Microservices by Susan Fowler.
I think I've heard about that.
Yeah,
she's good.
She's really good, and that's another one where she released the entire tech stuff on for free as well. So if you look around briefly, you can find it.
You can also just watch 4 years of Monorama talks in the background and be. Yeah. Actually,
I recommend that Production Ready Microservices is kind of like an SRE primer.
Okay.
It doesn't go
Do this
as
first.
What's that?
Do this first and then go SRE.
Well, because what she talks about in that book is, okay, so you have a product in mind. Cool. Well, let's talk about the components of that product, and then how to build them, and then how to make them manageable. And how to have them be production ready, hence production ready microservices.
Right.
Yeah, and when I read that book, basically the first 5 chapters were kind of like a very good summary of my career, which I was like, this is excellent. I like this. So
I do.
You looked over your shoulder.
I've done good. Yeah. Now that said, the Google SRE workbook covers it at a different level. This is more like, well, I'm here now, I'm in SRE, what the hell do I do? Yeah. So.
And I think that is probably, I don't know, that's, the Google stuff is confusing. I feel like there's a lot of sidewalks that sort of the acronyms that are defined and they're tautologically in reference to themselves, and it's stuff that works inside Google that they've kind of been hey, take a look, and
Cut yourself open.
Yeah.
You didn't list Charity Major's blog either.
Yeah, I should have. Well, I can put that. We should make a post of resources.
Yes, please.
That'd
be great.
Yeah. If it wasn't obvious, I could have prepared more for this.
No.
No,
It was
This is great.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, I mean, there's lists. There are more links that I think really are useful.
I am slightly disappointed that you missed service level agreements.
I glossed over it. Actually, I had a line in it. Those are handled by lawyers.
Who does that belong to?
Legal.
Belongs to marketing.
It brought his marketing. Okay. Yeah. Close.
So also in the
Depends what the product is.
Also in the chat, N8 Fu said that a Google SRE book was also written by the ads team. So grain of salt.
Grain of salt. Yeah.
Grain of salt.
Yeah. And if you listen to the Google.
Yeah, not because they're trying to sell stuff, but ads developers are wildly complicated. If you've ever met any ads developers,
the best minds of my generation.
They are living on a different plane.
Wait, that was awesome, and I really like how you broke down a lot of those words. And I think kind of to your point of what do we implement first? Is it SRE? Is it something else? I think what you really illustrated was the words don't really kind of matter if you're implementing the culture, if you're implementing those empathetic practices that you were talking about.
I mean, I think that you need to implement something to give it structure, right? And that's where, and I think also the focus on reliability is a useful way to create that structure, and connecting that, and when I was, reliability for me, I think that being very clear that that is about product value, right? And about the sustaining product value. And I think that's one of the neat things about using some of these concepts is you can use it to, it can be an interesting dynamic way to say, hey, we need to spend more on this and not on that, or we have made this good enough that we can stop and concentrate on something else, which is a very liberating concept, I think, in a lot of a lot of organizations where people are kind of just, a lot of times it's mythology that's driving what is important versus measurement. Or sometimes you have a little bit of measurement and that becomes the focus and becomes its own mythology.
Well said.
As a former Simple customer and fanboy, where do I purchase your shirt? Because I have about 4 people in the back of my head that would purchase the same shirt. Don't tell me it's not available.
I mean, I haven't tried to buy one. I don't know.
Were you just given one?
So it's interesting. Yeah, I got it when I worked there, and
Rest in peace.
it was kind of the it was interesting. It was the ops people and the customer support people were all metal fans, and so they made it together.
That's
Yes, because they got to deal with a lot of shit.
Yeah, they got to deal with a lot of shit.
I did sit on the phone with customer support a couple times.
Yeah.
I had a joint account with, it was
Yeah.
a nightmare.
Well, it was actually. I mean, when I started there, we had 70 services in like Golang, Erlang, Clojure, Java, and a lot of Scala, and basically like those are all those at the time I started, developers weren't on the pager. So like it was kind of I had been a developer for a long time, and then like there were some former members of the old Heroku ops team who were working there who I sort of shot the shit with, and I was like, it'd be fun to work with you guys. I'll do ops. And so suddenly I'm on call for like these things where I'm like, I don't know what's going on in Nacho and Chili's. You know, Corn Dog and Zatoichi, they all had these crazy names that meant nothing. You know, so.
Rest in peace, Simple.
I know, it's too bad.
It died too young.
What became of that? What was the story
PNC.
behind?
PNC bought BBVA, who owned Simple.
Well, BBVA USA, BBVA.
Yeah.
Because BBVA is like the 10th largest bank in Europe or something.
Yeah.
Talk about like, we're like, it'll be better when we're dealing with just one company, and you get inside and you're like, this is just as bad as dealing with 75 vendors. Anyway, yeah. So they got pulled. I think the story is that they were about to sell the whole company for $2 million, and some deal maker in Portland was like, wait a second, I think I can do better. And then they ended up selling it for $200 million to BBVA. And then they went for maybe 4 years after that. And I started right after the purchase, and it was just, there was a lot of scar tissue. And I think it was a lot of good intentions, and then it was just really hard to kind of get the product engine going. So like I entered at an awesome time because BBVA was like, you have 1 year to like, you know, improve your, like, it's all accuracy and reliability for this year. And that was when they rolled out they improved the IMS system, they improved like a lot of the like, so I kind of came in on like getting to work on all this like kind of moving engine of improving operational stuff. And then the next year was like, we're gonna like run, like it's the product year, we're gonna launch a bunch of stuff, and like they jumped on their horses and ran off in all directions and never made it anywhere.
I remember all of the new features that got released, and I was excited for every single one of them, and then it was like, some of these are broken. I don't know what's going on as a customer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I don't have it with me, but I still have my Simple card, and I still keep it like in my Apple wallet. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's just there.
It's just there.
It's just
that peeking little white edge coming up over.
Oh, I still have the app icon that sits there. It's so, and I was so in love with it that I got my girlfriend at the time to get a Simple card and have her stuff direct deposited. I told my best friend, like, you need to get Simple. And we all, at the same time, when Simple was like, we're closing the doors, we were like, shit, what do we do? Where do we go? That's why I have the Robinhood card. We talked about this.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I had Robinhood, and it was like, they have a debit card. I guess that's where I'm going.
Yeah, it was like my simple card was like my modular synth account.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
I tend to just stick to credit unions because of this reason, because I don't trust banking solutions.
But oh my gosh, Simple was just.
It was really good. I mean, they were fighting up at like a lot of the vendors that they had to work with to begin with were like actively competing against them, like Bancorp.
Yep.
And then
They got
If you can't beat them, buy them.
can't beat them by them. Yeah, and then like find it like. Simple was an amazing company on the inside in some ways because the way they approached IT and security was like very much like this is all about enabling and fulfilling what needs to happen. So like there's a guy on my team who had come from the NSA and it'd be like, Moyer, can we do this? He's like, you're fine. Don't do that. Which is, it's kind of like this amazing, and he had this like really great sort of like, what can we do to like make everything work better after we make it secure, which is really cool.
Heart Simple.
Thank you, I appreciate the love. Yeah.
All right.
Great. Well, thank you all.
Cool. Thank you so much, Will.
Fogger Doug. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Which, by the way, Nathan had some fun choice words to say, but we came on Signal. Oh wait, I have fun choice words to tell Nathan. That's right. Okay, cool.
I meant to actually talk to Nathan beforehand because
he's dialed in the live stream.
Yeah. Well, hey Nate. He would be, his perspective on the history of SRE would be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for coming. Before you leave, please eat lots of food or take some home because we have way too much. 29 people registered on the meetup and 14 showed up. So, please, take some pizza home, take some chips home, take some shrimp home, whatever, enjoy yourselves. We've got some more interesting speakers that I'm trying to line up for the next couple of meetups. I'm also talking with Kyle over at BenJS about a joint hackathon, because thought that might be a fun thing to do this year, you know? I mean, part of the question is, like, usually a hackathon has kind of like a focus, like, hey, let's all work on this one big project together and break it off into small projects. So, might be a fun idea. We're looking for ideas on what to focus a hackathon on. If you have ideas, hit me up on the Discords or message me through the meetup. No, don't message me through the meetup because their messaging app sucks. Okay. Anyway, if you also are interested in coming to talk here, we would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you personally, because this is one of the most challenging challenges to try and get people to come stand up here and pour their heart and soul out for y'all so that we can have a great community here. That, and also bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring your spouses, you know, bring people who have no idea what computer engineering is, you know?
What's your username? What's your username on the Discord?
Mr. Mocha.
Mr. Mocha or Brian Weber.
Or Brian Weber. You'll see me. Well, you know, on our server I'm Brian Weber, but in the rest of the world I'm Mr. Mocha. You know, that's also all of my various handles on everything. So I've abandoned, you know, X, formerly Twitter, entirely. But so yeah. Thanks so much again for coming, and we'll just after 8, I'm gonna start kicking you out at 9 because I want y'all to be able to hang out and socialize and yeah. So hang out, be comfortable, eat, drink, be merry. Grab a box of pizza, take it home. Yeah.
Do you know what the bot link is?
So I'll send it to you. Here, I saw you pop in.
Bring your friend who doesn't know anything about computers. That means bring my friend who works for Everhard over there.
Yes.
Get him involved.
I mean, I think there's something very.
Your Clark Gateway, right?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
Boom.
you.
Yeah, because my
Paste. Boom. There you go. Should be in your DMs.
Awesome. My one buddy is gonna be like, oh my god, you met somebody that worked at Simple. Sorry, I was fanboying a little bit, trying not to turn it into a Simple service org. I'm like, I love the product.
I've never heard of this service before, and I want to learn about it.
Oh my god, it was so great. It was like, it came out at just the right time on my radar that I was.
What year was this?
I got on in high school when I turned 18 because I got a job at Starbucks and didn't want to deposit money into my parents' Bank of America account. So I was like, I need an account.
They'll give me a card. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got Simple. I was like, I got turned on to that.
You got the piece of cardboard with the card, the rubber band.
And I had that card for so long and used it until the last minute I could. And my buddy did the same thing. I got him on it in college. We were roommates, and I was like, this is awesome. And he got it, and it was just, we were so devastated when we announced it. Actually, funny thing, I got fraudulent deposit into my IRA from BBVA Compass / PNC somewhere. I called PNC and they were like, we need your customer ID. I gave them my social. They're like, we don't know you. And it's like, you bought the company. I was very catharsis because I got to yell at somebody about.
You bought the company, and now you're giving me money. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah,
That's an interesting fraudulent.
I know. I don't know what happened.
I do have some. I think I've still got some we got a bunch of they did. There's a never really got to work on the website, so they do all kinds of cool swag.